I bet you did. Well, I'm back. I told you I'd be back. Today, this afternoon, I should say, my next guest is Paul S. Rogers. He is an Amazon best-selling author, and his specialty is helping others to experience the power and journey to transform. Yes, he's a transformation expert. To remind you of somebody, he's also the director at Core Mentors Association, a life coach, a trauma TBI, a PTSD mentor, a public speaking coach, an Ikigai coach, a U2 quantum leap trainer. Now, Paul has used his professional experiences in 4 career changes to inspire and to guide folks. And he's almost reminds me of Benjamin Button. It's almost like he's living his life backwards instead of frontwards. It's kind of funny. Paul, I'm going to stop introducing you there because I really want to get into our meat and potatoes if that's okay with you. And I said Benjamin Button because you started your career in Great Britain as an attorney, as a lawyer, as a barrister. And you know, then you go to kite surfing in the Caymans, and then you go to teaching up on a Cree reservation in northern Quebec, and now you know you become a life coach, and reminds me of my journey. It's kind of funny. So you know, it's the pinnacle. You reach the pinnacle and you're going backwards for some people, but I would say for you, this is the pinnacle now.
I totally agree. And, you know, it's such a smooth transition, as you can see, all in the same field. So, yes. And each sort of change has demanded a new me. And I really like that. So the Benjamin Button, and yeah, obviously I look entirely like Brad Pitt. So thank you for that compliment. Brad, if you're looking, I'll be a stunt double.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, starting off as a commercial lawyer, I kind of followed what society expects of you, which is you go to school, you get good grades, you go to university, get good grades, you go to law school, get a job, and become a partner. And
was your father a lawyer? Sorry, was anybody?
Yes, he was.
Of course he was.
And you knew that was coming. And I'd never wanted to practice in the same field as him because I didn't want to be in his shadow because it's such an easy thing to do that. So he worked in a very different area to me. I worked in commercial law, which is kind of the shark of the sharks. So we're not the most popular lawyers because we like to wear a big medallion and crush walnuts on our biceps.
Yeah.
I know.
Why is that a humor?
And you know, when I look back on myself now, I think if I met myself now, I'd be like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? And even though I was successful, I had all the trappings of wealth. I had the cars, you know, all the sort of
the suits.
Things. Yeah, I mean, so financially and materially, I was very wealthy, but I was actually bankrupt in lots of different areas for my relationships. I was really, really unhappy and fairly lonely, to be honest. Because
you were young, weren't you? You were almost too young to notice that you were unhappy, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I started in 1999 and I just popped straight out of sort of law school, and you go and do your training and then you qualify. So yes, I got made a partner super, super young. And so the success came from that. And
I'm just laughing. I'm just imagining you walking in there today with your dreads and going, hey, I'm back.
To be honest, I'd be like, who is this dude and what's he doing in this office? So
you don't belong here. The reception would be like, oh my God, there's a guy in here.
You know, security, there's a weird place.
Exactly.
So, no, and I get asked this question when I say, what's the advice you'd have given your younger self? And I say, well, you know, relax and everything. And I get asked the question, would you listen to that? And I said, not a chance. No way would I. No. I would like, who is this trampy guy giving me advice? Because kind of like most people when they're young, they kind of think we know it all.
Absolutely.
And we work out after a while, looking back, we like, oh, we didn't know anything, but you know, so I'm pleased I had the experience because actually it's given me a good foundation, lots of skills I've taken forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm pleased I did it. And also I'm pleased to do it because then I realized what happiness actually then feels like. And I like to say that my thinking in my head got me to that point, but then after that, I stopped being in my head and started thinking with my intuition and my heart.
Yeah.
And I had a hobby of kite surfing at the time. And I wasn't actually that good at it, but I thought this could be my way out. And
But what was the
so,
day? Let me ask you, what was the day, you're sitting in the office or wherever you were, you have a client, I don't know, and you go, this is it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm going, taking my kite and going to the Caymans.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, there was one guy who, he was a lawyer and we were negotiating. And I just kind of got tired of it. And I said, listen, this is just a game. And he said, oh, this is not a game, Mr. Rogers. Anyone said Mr. Rogers, I kind of look behind me. It's like,
My dad here.
Mr. Rogers. And I said, look, let me show you how much of a game this is. I'm going to say this. You're going to say that. I'm going to say this. And then you're going to go away and get some client's instructions. Now, tell me if I've got any of that wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And he said, no. And I thought, if I've got to the point where
the chess game is already,
outcome and I was like, I'm tired of this game. I'm tired of how that's leaving me in my personal life. And that was kind of the moment where I thought, do you know what? And of course, there was a road and it's a real fork. You either carry on and you carry on for a partner and everything.
Yeah.
And my friends thought I was crazy.
Of course they did.
And so they're like, well, why? And
well, your ego wasn't there with you. I mean, for sure your friends were like, oh, are you kidding me, man? You got the car, you got the girls, you got the clothes, you got everything. Why would you give that up?
And,
nobody understands that.
No. And Charles, and when I look at my friends now, they're still lawyers. And they're thinner on top and they're slightly wider around the middle. And what they say to me now is, I wish I had the courage to actually leave.
Yeah.
But now I'm stuck. I've got mortgages. I've got commitments. I can't now go even if I wanted to. And
untrue, but
yeah, well, it is untrue, but
yeah,
it gives people it gives people a lot of security if they feel that
they don't have it out.
That we can't even try.
Right.
And so I went from multi-million-pound deals to
Yeah.
popping up kites on the beach.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it was just like, oh, this is brilliant. So that was kind of, and as a career transition, that was big. I mean, we already mentioned my father was a lawyer.
Yeah. So what did Dad say?
Well, just imagine the conversation, and it's like,
dinner table. Okay.
Okay, Dad. I'm going to quit the law, and he's like, okay, all right. Oh, okay. What are you going to do? I'm going to be a kite surfing instructor. And he's
and we spent how much money for a college?
Yeah, exactly. And his response was priceless. He says, well, son, you're an arse and now you're just about to become a bum. So
oh my gosh. Wow.
And for the Europeans, bum, and for the American audience means totally different things. So basically a beach boy. And so and that was, I mean, he didn't say no or anything. He just said, fine. And actually he's my best friend anyway.
Yeah. And is mom still alive?
Oh, mom's still alive. And to be honest, they were both kind of trailblazers. My father, I was the first person that went to university out of our family.
Okay.
My father, he did it the hard way, where he actually took correspondence classes after
to become a lawyer. Wow.
And he started as the tea boy. So he made the tea for the bosses, and he worked himself up to passing his exams. I was running around, and he used to fall asleep at his desk in the lounge. He then went to start on his own business, and then he became a barrister. And now he's a retired judge.
Good for him.
So you can see, and I think that's the hard way, because floating off to university and having effectively.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's a hard way.
Yeah.
But it showed the tenacity is there for both of you. Now, do you have siblings?
Yes. My sister also went into the law, and, we kind of lack a bit of imagination. So she went into the law, and she did become a barrister whilst I remained a solicitor. and she worked up in London. So a barrister, a female barrister in London, it's kind of a male-dominated club. So she had to work twice as hard,
For sure.
like most women do, to prove herself
Yeah.
in a male-dominated world. And she did family and childcare law, which was
Beautiful.
that's
Hard.
emotionally
Yeah.
hard. I mean, I did commercials, so it was like no emotion. Let's just do a deal.
Yeah.
And now
But she's got children's lives in her hands. And
exactly. So now she's a chef. So she's gone off, and
good for her.
she's just about to buy a little tea room in England. So
Nice.
yeah,
Good for her. How old is she?
she's 3 years younger than me. So I'm level 47. I don't like to say I'm age 47. I'm now level 47.
Level 47. What house?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me feel good about that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So it's interesting, coaching is, I'm a coach and I taught coaching at the International Coach Academy. And I remember, like, you were a lawyer, and I remember having a student who was a neurosurgeon. And I'm like, you're going to trade neurosurgery to be a life coach. Right? I'm like, are you out of your mind? But all these people were leaving these big careers, law and all, like yourself, and becoming coaches. And I thought, what is it? I knew what it was for me, but for them, I'm like, wow. I mean, I didn't really have a career. I had a gazillion careers. I didn't have one career, right? So it was different for me, but because, I love change and transformation. But it was very, very interesting how they found their way there. And it was like a big moment for them, right? A relief.
I mean, the saddest thing, and I hear this a lot, where they speak to people who have got towards the end of their career, and they ask them, one, are you happy? And secondly, what would you have done? And it's very, very rare that they said, I am doing what I always wanted to do. And actually in Japan, and this is really interesting, the retired people, they get to actually, when they get to a certain age, they get to go back and do what they wanted and serve other people.
Oh, I like that.
And so that's why if you go to Japan, you would see the people meeting you at the train station are the elderly population. And they, of course, they're passionate about what they do and they love it. And so
see, in Mexico, now in Mexico, the elderly people bag your groceries and they watch your car for you, because there is no program like security program for them, wealth wise or anything like that. And so it's like, I've watched your car for you.
Yeah.
I watched it while you're in the store, and then give them a tip, right? Yeah. And give them a tip at the groceries for bagging. And it's so unfortunate, but I mean, this is where the elderly, in a lot of different places, but I love the idea that the elderly get to do that. And I tell you why I really like that, because in my book, Midlife Mojo, I found that where people get to a point in their career where they've done it all, and they what they haven't done is they haven't served others. Where they're going to feel good is, I feel like I need to give back. And that's when they leave that career and go into coaching or go into whatever it is that they want to go into. But it is always has an element. If you're progressing along,
I mean,
line, you're going to want.
Right. And that's where the Ikigai comes, which is a Japanese word. And effectively, there is no English translation. It basically means what gets you up in the morning to go and do the work. And it's all, everyone's seen the Venn diagram where you have love what you do, good at what you do, get paid. And the center is Ikigai. Now, that's what the studies have shown they live longer than most people because they're
happy.
Yeah, exactly.
The happiness factor, tick. Yeah.
And that happiness is such a life fulfilling thing. And
why, it's so elusive for so many people.
Well, it is. And people think they've found happiness, and they look for happiness outside of themselves.
Correct. Yes.
And it's kind of like, and I love this analogy, you put the key of happiness in somebody else's pocket, and that's something which you will never ever find it. And I'm a great fan of Wayne Dyer.
Yeah.
And he had this little story, if I can tell it quickly.
Yeah. You got lots of time.
He there was a cat and a little kitten who was chasing his tail around and around and around, and he was trying to bite his tail. And so an alley cat walks up to him and says, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I've been to cat school, and I have learned that if I bite my tail, that's where that's where happiness is." And the alley cat says, "Wow." He said, "Well, I haven't been to cat school, and my happiness is in my tail too. What I have found is that happiness always follows behind me." And
Yeah.
so it's not, you can't go to school and like, I am learning happiness.
Right.
It's and it's kind of like chasing a rainbow. Every time you think you've got to it, it disappears. But actually,
Well, it's kind of, I'm gonna bring your book up for a moment. Your the first book, because that book is about being compassionate, self-compassion, you know, and I think the elusiveness of happiness is because we don't want to be compassionate and allow it in our lives. We're too busy doing other things, but if we allow it, then maybe we would have to make a change. And so I'm afraid of change, and so ergo I don't do it.
And you're right. It's kind of one of those fluffy things which you think, oh well, I get round to that. The sort of thing you put on your CV next to basket weaving, but you've never done it. And actually, the person who told me this, and it was a real waking up moment after my accident. I was seeing my doctor, who bless her, who's followed me for the last 2.5, 3 years, and she said the only way you're going to get through this, Paul, is if you learn to develop some self-compassion. And I remember at the time I was really disappointed because I was kind of hoping she was going to give me some pain meds.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, that's going to be really awkward to go up to the pharmacy and said, "I'd like 2 bottles of self-compassion, please." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, sorry, we're out of stock." But that journey into yourself, it's such an amazing thing, because when you start, it's a strange path. But what you then find is that you've got all these unopened presents, all these gifts you've given yourself in every hardship, everything you had to overcome. But you've been too busy focusing on the outside to actually realize you're all there. And that's when people, like, they do unnatural strength, women lift cars off children and things.
Well, that's the adrenaline, I think. But I think what you're talking about is something a little bit different. And I don't think everybody gets there or goes there. Like, let's talk about your accident for a moment, and I'll draw the analogy after that. You can tell us about it. Tell us about it. I wasn't there.
No. To be honest, that's the clearest explanation I've had yet. So, yeah, my accident and 2 big traumas. First of all, I was diagnosed with skin cancer, and I beaten that 5 years.
When was that? 5 years ago?
Yes, that was 2014. So 15, they finally got it, and they had to cut it all out. So I'm 5 years clear and counting on that, which is
good.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yes.
But you'd think life had finished with me, but actually that was just a warm-up act for 2018 March.
Wait, I gotta stop you for 1 second. What were you doing then?
I was a teacher on a Cree reserve, and we were up North Quebec, so way up north.
Okay.
And we had a rented house on the reserve, and we had our own house sort of a few hours away. So I'd just finished a contract, so I was between contracts. Our 2-year-old at the time, we just picked him up from daycare. My wife was sat with my 2-year-old in the back, and I had a beautiful great white husky, Malamute. And as we were driving back, we went over an unmanned crossing when a train hit the car, and it destroyed the car. It T-boned us effectively, taking us down the track, and it destroyed us. My wife and I were to wake up 10 days later in ICU. I didn't know who I was for months and months and months. And I had a cracked, well, a broken C6, so just at the top of the neck, L3 and 4, and a smashed skull. So that's a TBI, and I had to go and look that up because I had no clue what that was. So a traumatic brain injury, and funny enough, on the severe side, it was so bad that my parents had got the call in England to come and turn my life support off.
What was the Glasgow score?
3.
Wow. Okay.
So, and it's 1 and 2, forget it. 3 is right on the bottom. And it's kind of fun that I've got all these hospital cards, which I'd never remember visiting because each time they took me to a hospital, they had to stabilize me and move me to. So, yes, the score is very low, and they didn't think I was going to survive. And so my parents then got on a plane, 7 hours on a plane from England.
Yeah.
With a clock that's never going to move. And so being a parent myself, it just tears my heart. So they got to the hospital, and my wife woke up the day before I did. So she asked the nurse.
What were her injuries?
Her injuries were, she's got a traumatic, hers was more serious. She had to have her skull removed, a large part of the removed,
my God,
to let the swelling go down because it's a closed box. Hence why she's taking a very different path. Same accident, very different one.
Yeah.
Because mine was on the side and around the back of the neck, and it's all carotid artery and everything. They couldn't do that, so they just had to let me swell and then come back down.
Yeah.
So she came to my bed, and she can't remember this, but she sat and she talked to me for a few hours, went back to her bed.
And she knew who she was?
No.
Oh, she didn't know who she was either?
Nope.
But she came to talk to you?
Yeah.
Where? Okay.
And when I eventually woke up, they were saying, your girlfriend is upstairs. I said, I haven't got a girlfriend, I've got a wife. And of course, they thought that was really funny. And so I was like, no, I don't know who this girlfriend is. And so the next day when my parents arrived, the nurses and the doctors ran to them and said, he's awake. We didn't do anything. We changed none of his drugs. You know why you are here, so we're just going to call this a miracle.
Yeah.
Now, when I see you workers start saying it's a miracle, you tend to sit up and listen.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the start of the recovery. But something had changed when I woke up. I had this burning desire, even though I was really badly smashed up, to help others. Yeah. And it sounds as corny and it's just the truth, and that's never going to stop. And now I find every possible way, whether it be speaking, whether it be books, coaching, I just find ways to actually try and help and pay it forward, because I was lucky enough to get another roll of the dice.
Yeah.
And I have I had a 7-hour brain operation to effectively scoop out the bone fragments. The really alert of your viewers, and if in fact you're listening to an audio land, I'm pointing at the right side of my face. It's actually paralyzed because that's nerve 7. See, I know too much about my medical stuff now.
Yeah.
And that started the journey.
And where was your baby? Where did he go?
Of course, Mum and Dad, as were out of it. So the police had to ring our next of kin, and my sister-in-law is luckily a child psychologist.
Oh.
So they said, we're going to have to put him into care. And she said, that is not happening. I am going to get in the car and drive up. Now, we are 5 hours away from her.
Where does she live?
She lives in Sherbrooke in the eastern
Quebec. Okay.
And we live way up north. I mean,
so is your wife French Canadian?
Yep. She's French Canadian. Okay. So, and now I am now a French citizen. I had my ceremony a couple of weeks ago, and after 7 years of doing stuff, I am now a Quebecer. So that's
congratulations.
Thank you.
Quebecois.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So, I'm one of those. So
you're one of those now.
Yeah. So she then was able to take him and look after him, and we couldn't see him for months because we were too ill. And knowing that you have a son and not being able to see them, and we did it like an hour each day, getting longer and longer. It's really hard. I
When
mean,
did you get your memory back?
mm, I, I would say I can't really remember very much of 2018, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah,
I remember the pain because pain
yeah.
is,
Pain is memorable for sure.
and this is something else which I've got to share with you and the listeners. I have had my first week of low pain since the accident. So
Really?
I'm delighted. I mean, they always say out of 10, what is it? And at the moment, it's about a 3 or a
Good
4.
for you.
And
Yeah.
I mean,
And
what's
I hear you because I'm a chronic pain sufferer myself from my accident, and so I get it. Yeah.
and you can't run away from it. That's the thing.
No, but you can't tune into it either
No,
because
no,
it's like what you have to keep it like white noise. Otherwise, it's just going to like blow your mind.
exactly. And I have now, funnily enough, I don't believe in coincidences. That being run over by a train kind of does that to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. No kidding.
But what I've found is, this realization came to me very recently: the medical profession can't fix you. They can manage you, but they cannot fix you. And especially when it comes to the mental side, and I've kind of repaired myself, and I've used that to put things back, to try and build back synapses by reading, by exercising the
Let
mind.
me ask you about your wife.
Mm,
Her injuries were similar, kind of brain injury.
mm.
Um, what was her recovery like compared to yours?
It was a lot faster because the pressure got relieved straight away. She also didn't have any brakes as well.
Okay.
Whilst she was sat in the back seat, so I effectively took the brunt of the blow, which is why I got so many big breaks.
Yeah.
There is also another reason why her injuries are a lot less. My husky Malamute, when the impact,
You're gonna make me cry. I read
yeah,
it.
here
You're
it
gonna make me
comes.
cry.
Get your tissues ready. He jumped over the back seat onto to land on top of my wife and son. Now he was a big dog. He saved their lives, and he gave his at the same time.
Yeah.
And I tell that story not for a pity party, but to show that even in the depths of destruction and dark and no hope, there is always a story of hope, love, compassion, and beauty if you're willing to look
Well, I'm
for
glad
it.
I didn't have my mug. I have a mug with a movie camera on it. It says, "I don't care who dies as long as the dog lives."
And unfortunately and
Yeah.
but part
Oh,
of why, and
bless him.
that's why I titled my books The White Wolf Way, because it's kind of my love letter and
Yeah.
my thank you note to him.
Okay, but why Kate Summers?
Aha.
Why Kate?
Well, that's a very good question. The answer is dead straight, and if you think it's woo woo, that's not my problem. When I was in these early stages of what I didn't really know what was going on, a female presence came forward. And I now know that to be channeling. And she has been with me ever since. And she's been actually largely responsible for actually my miraculous recovery, because by all accounts, I should not be able to do everything. I shouldn't be able to talk and everything else. And to be honest, to start with, it scared me. And so what I decided to do is embrace it. So I gave this presence a name, Kate. I created a profile. I gave it a picture, and it's a pretty picture because, I like pretty girls, so that's fine. And she wrote these books. And because at the time I was completely out of it, and I've written 5 actually, and
Oh,
those 2 are published, and the third one I'm going to be bringing out very shortly. So I can't take credit for that. I
I get
can,
it.
yeah. So and that's why that they're free or 99 cents, because it's not. It's just a message, and and the good news is that, the first book is an Amazon bestseller. All that tells me is that it's going to people who need to see it. And, it's not an ego thing. It just means that the right people are getting hold of it. And
let me ask you this. Do you think that you went through the dark night of the soul in the hospital? Would you say that you went through that?
Yes. And the reason I'm hesitating is because I've been asked a similar question of, well, what's it like? Do you see the big bright light? And
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about being near death. I'm talking about dark night of the soul, which is, I think, I went through that. I was in the hospital 6 months too. I was T-boned by a car. I was on a motorcycle. So you're not the same as a train, but I had nothing around me.
Relatively speaking, because I had a nice metal case around me. So.
So, and I know I went through the dark night of the soul, and I know that, like my book was totally channeled. I just read it yesterday again after years, and I'm like, holy crap, that's an amazing book. But I didn't write that.
Yeah.
But going and just everything that was me was taken away. Right? I worked for the government, and I was a drummer in a band, and I was on the National Dragon Boat team, and the only thing that stayed was I was a mom. But I divorced my husband, lost my job, lost everything in the hospital. And it's like, okay, so you're none of those things. You learn that you're not any of that stuff. But who are you? Your soul, right?
Yeah.
But what does she do? So when I came out, I too was like you. I had to go, and I'm in the hospital. I got 2 broken femurs, hip, pelvis, everything, and they're going, could you go help that person over there? Because they don't want to do their therapy, right? Yeah. And I'm like, okay. Like I'm laying down, I'm like swimming over there, and you have a chat. And the girl next to me broke her fingernail. She was screaming. I go, what happened? I broke my fingernail. I'm like, okay, let's keep this relative, okay? It was insane. And so I hear you, because I think it's a similar experience. It's like, why were we so positive in our recovery, helping all these people when we were so badly off, like 10 times worse than anybody else? And yet here we are. Like I gave a speech at the rehab, before I was doing all like you. And it's kind of like, okay. And I think, it's horrible to say, and because I felt the same thing about me. The universe was calling and we didn't listen. And I think what happened, like they meant to get you with a baseball bat and they hit me with a tree trunk, and similar to you, it was like, oh, now you're going to listen, because now you're going to be in a hospital for a really long time and hear what we have to say. And Kate came through, and whoever came through, and now you're going to hear it. And now we're going to prepare you for what's next.
Exactly. But you said it so beautifully there, to be honest, and so eloquently. I'm going to sort of fumble around and try to do this just as well. So. I really do believe that when your soul tells you something and you have the choice, we always have a choice.
Yeah.
And even when we don't think we have, you either listen to it or you don't. And I really do believe if you listen to it, it looks after you. It starts to give you energy, and it starts to give you things which actually other people don't seem to have. Mm-hmm. And I really, and another thing is, one of the things, and this is me confessing, on a selfish point of view, every time I feel I help someone, I get a little tiny piece of healing back.
Yeah.
And my life was gone. And proper gone. It's a question of you blink, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I was training as a whitewater rafting guide. So I was just about to go to North Carolina to do my whitewater rescue exam. We were packed. We were ready to go. You could have done that in Ottawa. I could have done it in a lot of places. North Carolina in March, that tests the metal. So, so we were packed. We planned our journey and everything. And this is going to be a real universe telling you something lesson. On the day which we would have been driving down, because we had all our motels booked, there was the weather bomb, and they shut the state. On the road which we'd have been on at that time, there was a 100-car pileup. Wow. So that, and we can we've got
Yeah.
cross reference, so
Yeah.
it's true. And another thing, where my injuries are, I shouldn't even be able to speak, but I've never had any issue. You can hear, I've never had any issue about talking, and I, by all accounts, sound fairly
Yeah. Yeah.
coherent.
Yeah.
And that's for a reason. Like you say, it's a purpose. And I really do believe, and I now feel very, very happy. And I actually thank what happened, because it's given me my strength and it's given me a purpose. And adversity does that to you. And you still have that choice.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
The lessons from adversity are, okay, you're stronger than you thought you were.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People go, oh, I could never do that. You don't know what you can do until you're facing it.
Exactly.
Right? So that's a big lesson there. Not everybody, some people are going to become martyrs. Some people are going to, just shrivel up, and
Yep.
and some people are going to go out there and try to change the world.
Yep.
And you don't know who you're going to be until it happens.
There is no warning. There is nothing. And I could easily, even today, I mean, I have pain today, and
Right.
like I do every day, I could easily just go and lay down and not get up again. So every single day there is a choice. And I now keep a gratitude diary, and my gratitude is very simple. It's like, I'm pleased that I'm still doing this and I've got my fight in me. And that that's kind of something which you can only understand it if you've been there. It's kind of like trying to explain to somebody what's being in love like.
Yeah. But I mean, like for you, it's like, okay, God, like cancer, that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't good enough for you.
Yeah,
Now I got hit by a car or a truck or a train. It's like, whoa, okay, I get it. I hear you now. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, you see, that's why being a transformation expert, I've got plenty of experience.
Yeah.
And I always think you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't lead where you won't go. And so I'm here. And this is not something, I'm going to do this, and if it doesn't work out, I'm going to get another job. This is it. This is what I'm doing until I am no longer here. So
okay, so I got to ask the question that everybody wants to know: why the dreads?
Good question. On your flyer, you'll see that I am the corporate thing with my short, spiky hair.
That's why I did that.
Yeah, I know. It's a really graphic illustration, and
the transformation of you.
Yeah, I mean, why the dreads? First of all, I grew my hair long because I thought it was kind of like, that's something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now, kite surfing is great, but there's a lot of wind because that's what you need. And I kind of found that the hair just wrapped around my face all the time. And my hair kept going into knots. And I thought in the end, well, why don't I just let it do what it wants to do? And these now have been in for 10 years.
Wow.
And usually the next question is, do you sell drugs? No. And do they smell? How do you wash your hair? And I usually say with soap and water. That's how I wash my hair. And it's no different to washing long hair. It just takes like a day and a half to dry out. But it's now so much a part of me that actually, and another way, that's how people recognize me.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing what it is, they say, oh, it's the guy with the dreads. They won't remember my name. I don't mind that. It's just that they may not even remember the message, but they will remember something.
The hair.
Yes. And hey,
hey, you with the hair.
How nice to remember for your hair.
How's your son today?
He has some separation anxiety. He always wants to make sure that we're well. So he wants to look after us, which is wonderful. And the other day I went to Walmart on the weekend, which everyone knows is crazier than a bucket of frogs. And I was with him, and I have to wear earbuds whenever I go out because noises and crowds and things, they just send me into a real problem. And he was holding my hand, and I thought, who's leading who here? is he actually looking after me, or am I looking after him? And we took him to and wonderfully, my sister-in-law is a child psychologist, so he didn't draw all the nasty things. But there will come a time in his life when he will have some issue, and when he goes back and somebody talks to him, they will take him back to when he's 2, and then he'll come and ask us, what happened when I was 2? And then we'll tell him.
Do you have another dog?
And no, I tried. And what I do instead, this is kind of a compromise. Every Friday, I go and volunteer at the local pet refuge. So I get to walk all these different types of dogs. And for me, I love that because actually it's something it touches me. But he was such a personality that
there's no replacing ever.
No, I just don't think.
There's so much love for,
Yeah, and so I just.
I'm sorry.
No. It's. He's a hero.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of him.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, that's very big shoes to fill.
It's unfortunate. My dog didn't die as a hero, but I had a couple of dogs, but when I got home from the hospital after 6 months, 3 days later, my dog got out and died. And it was like you wind it back, and it's like a country song, right? Yeah. The dog died, the dog's now alive, and then the rod in my leg broke, and I have a broken leg for a year because they couldn't get you into no operating theaters available. So
we could sing fantastic blues songs because we've got so much material. Like, I had cancer, da-ding, da-ding.
Yeah, no
I got
kidding.
This, and then the dog died, da-ding,
and then the dog died. I lost my job. Guys came and took all their gear. That was surprising. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but we're still here. We're still and we're thriving.
And that's kind of why, for you, the Mission Unstoppable. It's you. It's not
Actually, I didn't even come up with Unstoppable. When I was teaching at the academy, one of the coach teachers, she said to me, I don't know, I said something about being in pain. She goes, "What do you mean you're in pain?" I go, "Oh, yeah, I was in this motorcycle accident, and I just got all this chronic pain." And she goes, "What?" She goes, "I don't hear it in your voice." Right? Because we taught over the phone kind of thing, right? Online. And I go, "Yeah, no, I don't talk, what am I going to go, oh my God, how do you be a coach like that?" Right? No. So she goes, "You're unstoppable." And I thought, okay, I'm going to take that. And as a mantra, because if you're going to have to say something to yourself every day, I'm unstoppable, is pretty damn good when you're in recovery.
That is really your North Star, isn't it?
Yeah. But it came back at me because, my kids will now say, like, "Oh, I thought you were unstoppable." I go, "Listen, I have to be unstoppable in every area of my life, okay?"
It's so depressing when you hear your own words thrown back at you.
I know.
And I had something very similar very recently. I was giving a talk on a men's mental health summit, and I said, "Look, you guys need to find your voices. That is the most powerful thing you can give." And I thought, what a great idea for a public speaking course, find your voice. So, and so I now run that because I want people to heal, tell people their other story. And it's amazing how these things just happen. And you think, oh, that works. So,
but you know what, Paul, I think there came a day for me, and maybe it's over, I don't know, but there came a day where I didn't want to tell my story anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like, I'm bored. It bores me. It's not who I am. It's something I went through, right? But it's not who I am anymore. And but there are parts of it that are so important that you almost have to keep telling it. Like I asked you about your experience, because for me, after the accident, I used to have to go to the hospital because the insurance companies would make you go for these DACs and stuff, right? And they put me on this table and they started measuring my scars. Not, hello, Frankie, how are you? No, none of that. Just came in. Oh yeah, that one's 30 inches. Okay, yeah. How much was that one? Okay. Never once talked to me like I was a human being. No. And then they had the audacity, and I just wondered, God, if you were a woman, couldn't even imagine it. The guy said to me, yeah, I wouldn't date if I were you because like your commodity as a woman is depleted by 30%.
Oh my God.
Not the first doctor to tell me that. 2 doctors kind of said something very similar. And I thought, oh my God, for what gives you the right to talk to me
Yeah.
that way? Secondly, like I'm like depressed like crazy
Yeah,
and you're
that's
gonna
not the
like
thing you
just
need to
knock
hear
me
at that
while I'm
point.
down, why don't you?
Yeah. Well, I had something where I had to go and see the insurers, and I soon worked out that I wasn't the patient. It was the insurance company was the patient. I just presented the body. And my file is pretty thick, as you can imagine. And he said, so what happened? I was like, have you read the file? Nope.
Yeah.
I thought, and so then I had to spend the rest of the time. So why aren't you working? I was like, seriously? And he was like, why? You tell me. And I had to fight and convince somebody. And that's kind of the worst thing. It's invisible.
You have to convince them that you're something wrong with you. However, in Canada, you had brain injury. So you were catastrophic. I was also catastrophic, but my
Absolutely.
catastrophic was a lot different because I didn't have a brain injury. 60% of my body had to be affected to get catastrophic. And it was. And so we're both catastrophic in a different way. But with brain injury, at least like, oh, he had a brain injury, right? No, but you're still proving, like, you don't want to sit there and prove how fucked up you are.
Yeah. No, I mean,
No, like, read the damn file. Look at all the x-rays and shit.
yeah, I mean,
I cut off metal detectors. Like, why do I have to prove that it hurts more than it does,
and I've found it's harder to prove that you're well than it is to prove you're unwell.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like confirming a negative.
Yeah.
And so that is when I get bored of telling my story, because they want me to define myself by the story.
But at the same time, like, I think what happens with those people who get, in at work with workman's compensation and stuff, if they would just allow them to be validated. I think if they just said to these people, you know what, you are hurt, I can see that you're hurt, they wouldn't try to fake it. They wouldn't try to milk the system. But somebody's saying, you're not hurt, go to work.
Yeah.
And so like, no, I really do hurt my back. If they would just say, we can see that you're hurt, they would move on with their life. I'm convinced of it.
No, I think you're entirely right, because it's a destructive way.
Yeah.
It's almost like, look, pull yourself together type approach. Well, motivation is not the issue. It certainly wasn't for me. In fact,
no, me neither.
It was kind of, I remember telling my doctor, it's like, I just woken up. I can't be here. I've got to go off and do my whitewater rafting. And she sat there like, okay. And so, it's
like say I gotta go jump from an airplane now.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, you get to the point, and this is a real conflict, consciously, and so the conscious part is scared of nothing. Yeah. My subconscious is scared of everything. So it's kind of it's Jekyll and Hyde on that.
Yeah, I get that.
And just going back to what you said about telling your story, the reason why I like telling my story is because I like to tell people the lessons, not the story, but what I've learned and how that helps. The story is just a vehicle to show people the lesson. And people are not their stories. They are the lessons they've learned.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And I didn't mean to disrespect you on your story no, don't go out and tell your story. Oh. I just said, I think you get to a healing place, and it kind of, for me, it felt like it was going to hold me back now. Yeah. To be that person, Does that make sense?
Agree. No, it does. And don't worry, no disrespect was taken. It's just, I had a student this morning.
I mean, I invited you to tell your story. I'm not going to say don't tell your story.
Yeah, wait, do you want to tell the thing or not? So, so you asked for that. And she was like, no. I said, listen, I don't want, in the best will in the world, not really that interested in your story. I'm interested in what you learn.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, yeah. And for her, it turned a light bulb on.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that people, and it's not their fault. They kind of live in their heads because that's the only place they may find sanctuary.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What a fascinating subject.
It really is. It really is. Well, I think it's a testament to your strength and your humor, and I mean it's all intact, which is great. I'm really
Mm.
really happy for you, and I'm really happy that you're here and you're able to help other people
Mm.
and wanting to help other people, which is also really great. And if people are listening and they take something away from this, it really is that we have no idea what we're capable of until we are presented with it.
And that's why people say, "Oh, I don't know how you do it." Well, to a
You don't know
large
how you did
extent,
it either.
no, to a large extent, I can't give you a simple answer. Oh, it's because I drink X number a day. It's literally because I refuse to stop and give in. That is
Yeah.
not how my story is going to end.
Yeah, yeah. I had a friend who was in a motorcycle accident too, and he was in Reader's Digest because his Glasgow scale was 0. He was a tree trunk,
Oh
and they
wow.
called the parents and they said, come down. We're going to take him off life support,
Mm.
and they did, and he lived. And he couldn't speak or do anything at the beginning, but around his apartment were notes. My name is, and I do this, and whatever. And he ended up getting a master's of education after that. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. He was a teacher.
That's a beautiful, beautiful story. And
Yeah.
what that just shows is it's not the end. And we, as a species, we're very adaptable. I mean, and we crawled out of the water X number of years ago, and now we use a smartphone, which has got more technology than NASA had to send a rocket to the moon.
But I'm going to tell you, the rest of that story was that he was a volunteer at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto, which is a trauma center.
Mm.
And he called me down and he said, could you come down here? Because there was a girl, she had injuries very, very similar to you. She was a snowmobile racer, and the track came off her snowmobile at 200 miles an hour. So I said, okay. And I had a driver at the time, and Jack took me down there, and I met with her husband. And I was only a month or two out of the hospital myself.
Mm.
And so I talked to her hospital and her husband, and he goes, well, who's helping you? And I go, nobody. He goes, you don't have a man helping you? I go, no. Do I need a man to help me? And he goes, well, I just can't even imagine how you could do this without somebody helping you, a man, like to do these things for you. Like, well, I'm really glad your wife has you.
Yeah, no.
But she'll be fine.
You see, that's just a projection onto you. He's just showing his weaknesses rather than yours. And people, I mean, your light, people like that, they're the thing which the beacons which people we can help others. We have that gift.
Yeah.
And that's why you do what you do here.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, we can't do anything for you physically. You have to do that work yourself. We can motivate and we can inspire and we can say, hey, we've been on that side and we know, and you can get over here, but you have to be willing to do that. And you can't do it. And I think the real lesson I learned was that, trying was lying, and that you either do it or you don't do it. You can't, oh, I'm trying. No, you do it or you don't do it. And that's the end of it.
Do you know, I can't help think of Yoda at that bit there.
I know.
Bit of Yoda wisdom coming in there, which I am completely fine with. But no, there is, there's so much, and in the best will in the world, some of the things which people think are problems are not. There are a lot of perceived fears, and if there's something out of your control, don't worry about it. If there's something in your control, do something about it. So,
Well, that's what Wayne Dyer said, right? I mean, Wayne said, if you're watching the news and you can't do anything about it, turn off the TV and don't be upset because you can't do anything about it. Like, you shouldn't even be watching it. Yeah. So it really is that. If you can do something, do it. And if you can't, no fault of your own.
Yeah. No, and I've got really into this. Wayne Dyer for me is, I wish I could have met him because and I listened to the audio, so I actually have his great, and he's really funny as well. Yeah, he's like, his jokes are, I mean, the cat joke was really funny. So and
actually my friend who had the motorcycle accident, huge Wayne Dyer fan. Yeah, huge too. Wayne actually got him up on stage a couple of times, but that's just but it's funny that the two of you are like,
yeah, no, I mean, to us, I think you find something, and once you find something, and I've swapped my physical stuff, which I was doing. Now I've swapped it for mental reading and helping. And to us, I don't feel that I've
How are
lost.
you physically? Like, can you walk okay? Can you
Um, um,
balance?
uh, not particularly well. Um, I mean, I went to the hospital yesterday and they are just about to stick me with 50 Botox injections in the face, neck, and everything
For
else.
pain?
Yeah. So, that was a delight because I went in there very naive and thought, well, okay, just one in the back and it'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
But can you
there,
walk okay? Can you like
yeah, I mean, my motor function, when I first, I couldn't walk. I had to teach
yeah,
myself. And this is going to sound very strange. Sometimes when I am walking, I forget how to do it. And
yeah,
then I suddenly feel like, really, I mean, I've had to hold on to walls and I still do.
that makes sense though.
And so, and a doctor recently said, I said, oh, I think I'm going backwards. I'm not healing. He said, listen, you haven't even got to the
Told you you're a
point.
Benjamin Button.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He said, you're still in going up, so you haven't slipped back as part of your recovery.
Yeah. So what do you want people to know? We're almost out of time. What do you want people to know?
Um, to trust themselves, to take that very brave step of not getting instant gratification outside, but actually go for what the real happiness and the real strength and the real choice, which is inside.
And how can they get in touch with you?
They have to get it by there's no right or wrong way, and I know where you're going with it. There's no right or wrong way, but if you are able to hang on to something which guides you, which works for you, it can be books, it can be listening, it could be take it and use it. I use Wayne Dyer, I use my books.
No, so how can they get in touch with you, Paul?
Oh, how to get in touch with me? Oh, well, that's easy. Paul S. Rogers on LinkedIn, because there's there's hundreds of Paul Rogers. I never knew I was that popular. And then I've got a website, takeactionacademy.ca, because I'm up in Canada, and my email, paul@takeactionacademy.ca.
Awesome. Thank you. Facebook friends, thank you. Goodbye. Please share this wide when I put it back out again so that everybody can hear the brilliance of Paul S. Rogers, Esquire. I'm going to say goodbye to Facebook. Let's take off Facebook for a moment. I'm going to stop the live stream. There we go. I'm just going to stop our recording.